call the January 27th, 2020 regular council meeting to order. There is no delegations, so we'll move over to the minutes and move to adopt the council meetings minutes held on January 13th, 2020.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Councillor Coomber.
I just have one slight correction. It's number 6A1. It's BCEDA, not EDABC.
You couldn't remember.
I know. I know. It's certainly not the fault of the people taking minutes or doing the agendas. It was my own, but it is BCEDA.
BC Economic Development Association.
Yes. You think that would be easy to remember? Normally it is.
Move to adopt as amended.
Second.
All in favor? Carried. Recommendation to adopt the special council meeting minutes of January 16th, 2020.
So moved. Second.
Discussion. All in favor? Carried. Business rising from delegations. Business rising from the minutes. That the CAO's status report be accepted and his recommendations be adopted.
I just had some
Do we have a motion?
I'll move it. It's been
on
second.
the.
Discussion?
I just had some discussion on further clarification. Where exactly is the Semlin Aquifer? And-
East of the village in general terms, north of the highway.
Okay.
Soup's on.
I mean, it's an aquifer, it's an underground body of water, so it's not any specific, well, it probably is a specific size and shape, but we only know approximately, so that's about as much as I can give you. It's near the border, but it's east of our eastern border, like toward Kamloops, and north of the Trans-Canada Highway.
So this isn't at the park, Cache Creek Park.
No, that would still be the Bonaparte aquifer. What we are also doing, there are two projects related to water. One, we are applying for funding to do a study for a third well in the park.
Right.
And a separate grant, or no, it's the same grant, but phase 2 kind of thing, or a separate part of the same grant. We're also applying for funds to do some exploration on the Semlin Aquifer to see if it's feasible to bring that into our water system.
Okay, so was in regards to this letter of authorization in our minutes where.
For Western Water?
Yeah.
Yes. So in order to get the information that they need, they're going to have to contact some of the landowners out there, with their permission, of course, get information such as, well information, how much they're taking out, what the drawdown is, any number of different things regarding water quality and amounts.
Okay.
They cannot just go in there and do that. There are no sampling wells out there, so they have to contact our property owners.
Okay, so when when this was brought up, I had asked previously where the Semlin Aquifer was, and I was told that it was at the Cache Creek Park.
I
So
don't recall that
that's
coming
why-
up in the past. I must have misunderstood
Just
something.
clarification, the question was asked and that was my response.
Oh, I see.
was thinking of the development well 8.
I see, yeah. No, the new one that we're hoping we can put in at the park would be still on the Bonaparte Aquifer.
And that's proposed to be well 8.
Yes. The reason for going to the Semlin Aquifer is so that, quote unquote, all of our eggs aren't in one basket. If something goes wrong with the Bonaparte Aquifer, Then we're looking at, the only water source we would have is taken directly from the Bonaparte River. And then we're talking about a huge amount of extra work for filtration, for licensing, and all the rest of that.
And dealing with fisheries.
Pardon me?
And dealing with fisheries.
Yeah, that's part of the licensing I was referring to. I
Okay.
really don't wanna go there
Yeah.
if there's any way to avoid it.
Right, okay. And I'd just like to see if we could send a thank you letter to Fraser Way RV for their donation of $20,000 for our wildland firefighting equipment.
I
I
thought
don't
that was a
think we-
motion last
I
meeting.
think it's not in the minutes, but I don't think we did. I think we skipped over it.
It's been done.
And has it,
I believe it already has been, yeah. There's a couple of other thank you letters that are going out too that we just kind of automatically do. One to United Way Rentals for, they gave us, donated 1 free day's use of the lift,
Scissors.
scissor lift?
scissor lift for doing Christmas decorations. And also to Associated Electrical for donating their bucket truck for doing the tree at the community. hall.
Awesome, great, thank you. The next question was, do we have the final cost on the fire hall?
The fire hall roof?
Yes.
To be honest, I'm not sure if we've even received the invoice yet.
Yeah, we did.
Okay.
It was like a couple of hundreds short of our budgeted amount.
Okay.
Think that's it, yep. Thank you.
Anything further? Councillor Cooper?
Page 11, number 7, I just noticed that that will be at a council meeting that Lisa won't be attending.
Councillor Defoe won't be attending the February meetings or the first March meeting.
Right.
Do we want to wait until such time as she's able to attend in person, or?
Councillor Defoe, do you have any feelings on the matter?
Which number?
This isn't a high priority item. It could wait,
Yeah,
if council would prefer.
Which item was it, sorry?
Page
Item
11,
item
number
7 on
7.
page 11. There's no urgency to it, but it is a rather important one, so perhaps we can hold it off until the next time Councillor Defoe is available to attend.
You could always look at it and give information
Okay, sure.
if you'd rather.
Your input is always welcome.
Councillor Cooper?
And last, on page 12, under the 2020 strategic plan, just my own comment that generally the reports, these reports that we have are just to provide us with shelf-ready information for future grants and financial planning. There's nothing to indicate that we have to follow through on all of the recommendations at once, so I would support that recommendation.
Thank you. Any further? All in favor? Carried. Committee reports, Economic Development, Councillor Peters and Councillor Cooper.
So the NDIT meeting I attended by conference call, I was one of many who did that because of the weather. I was actually in Kelowna. Most of the time that we were on the call was related to two things. One was the Fabulous Festivals discussion. The original budget was $50,000. They moved to raise it to $60,000 because of the response they were getting midway through the year last year, which was the last one I was on a teleconference call. We voted to increase it by $10,000 to a maximum of $70,000. In the end, $65,000 was given out in grants. So there was much discussion about raising it, and we are higher than a lot of the other areas and the other investment trusts. And so we chose to leave it at 60,000 again to be addressed midterm to see if it needed to be raised if they had a lot. The discussion was mostly about what an important grant it was, especially for the smaller communities like ours, because we depend so much on it. Part of the discussion is it's a 2-tiered grant apparently, which I wasn't aware of. If your budget is 50,000 or less, you qualify for $2,500, and if your budget is 50,000 or more, you qualify for $5,000. Area Rep Rice brought up that his concern that if all of the grants that applied for were the $5,000 grants, smaller communities would lose out. And so the group asked the staff to keep an eye on it and make sure that the playing field was level, which last year it was approximately 50-50. So Sally Watson brought up one that was declined, but it didn't meet the criteria. That's why it was declined. They tend to approve all of those.
Just, you were saying it's about 50-50, is that based on the finance end of it, or the municipality's participation end of it?
Finance.
Okay,
Yeah.
so roughly 30,000 to small, and another 30 to larger
Yeah.
events.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, maybe, don't quote me on that. You're making me think now. He just said that it was approximately 50-50, so there wasn't any unfair advantage to the bigger communities last year. So they were asked to just kind of keep an eye on that and make sure that if the fund was getting close to the end, that they bring it back up to the board or the regional group representatives to increase it if need be. And I apologize, there was a bit of miscommunication between Alana and I on the program evolution. I will forward the email because I actually wanted 66 of and to 144 printed, and we only have the first one. The reason I want you all to have a look at it is it hasn't been passed yet. It has to be ratified by all of the groups. It's the very last page of the package. It's
the agenda
it's-
page.
So if you look at page 19, that's only the first of
Several.
almost 60 pages that I wanted printed. The
Oh,
reason
I see.
it didn't get printed is it's a PowerPoint presentation, and so it's very huge. But it hasn't been ratified, but it's very exciting because they're opening up a lot of more money or larger amounts of money to municipalities, and the reporting processes are not going to be as time consuming, which will be of great benefit to staff. Things like the community hall, instead of having to provide dollar values of what the input or the improvement value was, it will be based more on generalities. So, and one-time reporting will come into play in a lot of projects because they're not an ongoing financial boom, whereas the way it's set up right now, you have to report annually for I don't know how long, but so there's gonna be a lot of things that that will save staff time considerably on these. Over the next 2 years, they're hoping to have all of the applications online, and so once they have it set up, they're gonna start with Fabulous Festival, I can't remember the other one, I'm sorry, where you'll be able to apply online and you'll be able to look back on history. And the advantage to that is that the smaller communities that have higher staff turnover, and ours would be a perfect example of that, that when you're applying for grant, you can go back and look at previous grant applications and use them as a template. So
Mhm.
again, it'll save a tremendous amount of time in the application process. So it's a pretty exciting improvement.
Yeah, I believe you can apply online as it is for any of the ones that I've put in, but there might be some that aren't. But the idea of being able to go back and get it in time.
Yeah,
that would be
you'll have a
awesome.
history that you can look at, and so it'll give you an idea, because some of the grants you can only apply for once. You'll know whether we've ever applied for it, all of those kinds of things. So there's some really exciting developments. The program hasn't changed since its inception in 2008, 2009, so the need was there for improvement. But like I say, the fact that and the descriptions, they broke it from 3 categories into 5 or 6, I can't remember off the top of my head. And the advantage of that is there's a better description of what that particular grant package entails, whereas now it's what was community facilities, and it had like many things underneath it. Now it's separated to 3 separate ones within that one, so that will.
Councillor Coker?
The potential for pool repairs in the future leapt out at me. In your
It's
report.
because the funding, the way it stood before, repairs and maintenance were not included in the funding, and they will be now.
Yeah. But I also noticed that completed program will be presented at the next GBM conference,
UBCM.
UBCM.
It's because we are only the first of the, there's 4 or 5 regional boards, that we're only the first. It has to go through all of those and be approved by all of them. Then it has to go to the board of directors and be approved, and then the final draft has to be created. And so information will be forthcoming within the process,
At UBCM,
but the final package, they're not anticipating having it launch until the fall.
but UBCM, I didn't know that anything regarding the trust would even go through them.
No, they're just doing a presentation there because everybody will be there.
Okay. Interesting.
What-
I can put next to it.
Just curious about what Councillor Cooper is reading from there, or?
Page
Page 18.
18?
Yeah, written over here.
Uh,
Cover
Councillor
bottom.
Peters' report?
Yeah.
Down here.
Oh, I see, okay, just presented that, okay, gotcha.
Councillor Defoe?
Sounds interesting.
So the rest of this, is it online or can you
I
forward it
will
to
forward
us?
it to you, yeah. I'm sorry, I forgot to. I meant to do it before the meeting, and
Thank you, Councillor Peters, for taking my spot and doing the teleconference.
well, I'm glad
I
that
know.
your mom's.
Yeah, thank you. It was nice of you to do that. And I'm even more thankful now than a year ago that we opted back into the general pool of funds with NDIT. They are a first-class organization that really have the smaller municipalities at heart and the struggles that they go through. And this is just one example of different directors or at the board level bringing up concerns and them acting on it. And they're more than happy to help in any capacity. So can't say enough that we belong to. Our general funds our funds have gone into the general pool.
They're very accommodating when you have stupid questions. They
No
hand you
question
their
is
card
stupid.
and say that anytime you have a question, feel free to call.
Stupid question and a stupid application.
Yeah. And on that note, I would like to ask that we apply for the Fabulous Festivals grant for Graffiti Days. I believe the sooner we get it, the better. Last year.
Second.
Okay, let's move back to the report.
Okay.
And is there any other questions on the report? No? Can we,
I move that my report be received and filed.
Thank you.
Second.
we've had a
Councillor
discussion.
Cooper seconded that already.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
No, I seconded Councillor
The other one.
Peters' motion
To
to
the
apply
Fabulous
for the
Festivals.
Fabulous
To
Festival.
apply for
First,
fabulous
yeah.
festivals.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
moving it, we're a step ahead of ourselves, sorry.
Yeah.
And we've had a general discussion. Is there any other discussion? All in favor? Carried? Okay, thank you. Now we
Okay,
can-
now I'd like to move that staff apply for the NDIT Fabulous Festivals grant for Graffiti Days.
Second? Beat you, or did you?
She did. on
Darn
the-
it, again. Any discussion on that issue? All in favor? Thank you for bringing that up. It's good to be proactive and get that off to them, because they tend to get, I don't know when the next intake is unfortunately, but it should be every
I believe
quarter.
it starts now.
Yeah.
Could be,
I
I'll
think
have
it
to
started
check on it.
January.
Okay.
So,
That's
I had
how
it in the back of
understand
my head that it was March, but
it's awesome, thanks. Anything further? Budget administrative services, Councillor Peters and Councillor Coomber.
Office closure, staff requests authorization from council to close the office on February 14th to allow completion of year-end filing and processing. This came up at the last council meeting and was defeated, and then it was tabled. I'm not sure that we can do that, however, here it is again. So I will move the recommendation that council lift this item from the table for consideration.
Second.
Discussion? CEO Martin.
Only that this is something that we have done in the past. It's for one day where we schedule that no member of the public can come in. We advertise it well in advance to make sure that there's not a big deadline coming up or anything like that where people are going to want to access village services. However, if council feels really strongly that we should maintain the office hours without closing, what we can do is ask for any staff that are willing to come in on a weekend and just give them a day off in lieu. Because we do need that time with the office doors closed, without disruptions.
The discussion that was held at the last meeting was that one person be assigned to take any inquiries and answer the door, and the rest of the staff be
Doesn't.
involved in the sorting.
I'm sorry, but it just doesn't work that way.
That was the proposal for having 1 day a month off.
Yeah.
No, this was
But
the
this
discussion
is
of
for
this
the
office.
annual filing. We do need 1 day to do that filing, to move all the boxes to the archive and prepare the new boxes and the new folders for the current year. I think we could probably do it in half a day, I would say.
We did have discussions on this previously, and that we were all in agreement to not be closing the office.
I think the
So
original
I think
discussion
that's-
was
The
not to
original
close at
discussion
month.
was for 1 day a month, so this is not that we ask for 1 day a month, we ask for 1 day, 1 year, on a yearly basis for preparing for the current year and archiving the old year.
I'll make a motion that the office be closed on February 14th to allow completion of year-end filing and processing.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Discussion?
I just feel that we could have the one person maintaining the office desk for any public inquiries, and the rest of the staff can proceed to complete the year-end filing. And also as a reminder that the staff positions are not on an hourly basis. Correct me if I'm wrong?
Support staff are on an hourly basis,
Yes.
senior staff are on a salary basis.
Correct, so they're expected to stay until the task is completed.
I
Yeah,
think
but that's overtime, that's double time.
Right,
That's
so
more
that's-
expensive for the company than having,
No,
Those
for the,
people work
for
on
the
regular
salaried
she's
staff,
proposing that you
so-
two just do it.
Yeah.
Which I think is unfair.
I just don't agree, because that's what we're paying the higher wages for.
Not for filing.
You first?
I don't know.
Go ahead.
Okay.
We're probably gonna say the same thing.
Go ahead, Councillor.
What is the cost implications? Do you know that if you had it on a weekend and then the day in lieu?
I wouldn't schedule it on a weekend unless the
They were
staff
willing,
were
but-
available or willing to do it on a time off basis, so there wouldn't be any financial cost. It would just be, they could take a day off in lieu, or however many hours it takes in lieu.
Which leaves us short in the office.
Well, we end up being short in the office for things like vacation as well.
Councillor Peters.
Well, I was just gonna say that we depend on our senior staff for recommendations, and they've made one, and I've never filed a year-end for a village, so I have no idea the time involved, and I trust their input.
The challenges that I see, and I understand both your points of view, and I believe it's important to do exactly what we need to do to straighten 1 year from the next and get it done. Our current position as a municipality is that we're understaffed. So that becomes a bigger challenge for us to do those things when we need to do them. The particular problem that I have is that closing our municipal office, the heart, if you will, of our community, and we have something particularly on that day that happens and somebody comes to the office door and the office is closed. Whether it be somebody coming in from out of town specifically for to come into the office to inquire about one thing or another. Could be, I'm not sure what it could, as an example, maybe a piece of property or development or something, and our office is closed. It doesn't really give a picture that I would like to see. Would be in favor of doing it on a weekend, however, as a compromise. Councillor Coomber.
We have a very casual attitude in Cache Creek. If they see people in here, they will, even if there's one person taking care of the front office, they will assume that everyone's here and want to talk to them. I was wondering, that's a good point that you bring up, Mr. Mayor, and I was wondering if perhaps an alternative to doing it on a weekend would be to just post a phone number on the front door and say, if you need to get a hold of staff immediately, phone Martin's cell phone number.
We would do something like that in any case. In the case of an emergency, when the office hours would indicate that we would normally be open, we can easily do that. I cannot remember for sure, but I thought we had done something like that last year, but I just don't recall, to be honest.
So we're gonna have 4 people filing for a full day.
Yes. Well, it may not be a full day.
So,
It's only
For-
this last
so-
filing,
so-
just to
Seems
make
a little
sure that
over
I'm
the
not
top
doing
to
filing,
me.
I have other
Yeah, I was
priorities
gonna
to
say,
do.
for
I'm
some
working on the
clarification-
year-end reconciliation. I don't have time to file.
okay, if I could ask then for some clarification on what's involved. So filing is only part of it. The physical filing of files is only part of it. What are the other parts?
No, that's pretty much it.
And setting up
That's
for
about
the
it. Setting up the
upcoming
new
year.
folders for the 2020.
And it's
So
the kind of
there-
work that is rather nitpicky. It's not something that you can just do and then go back to the go to
No,
the
that's
front
my
counter and
point. I'm not
back.
talking about filing this piece of
Yeah.
paper in a box and making a new file. I'm
No.
talking about all of the other things that are involved. So computer filings, are we talking about those kinds of things as well? That are best
Not that
done
much, because
uninterrupted?
we are pretty good at, we started being pretty good at filing, so yeah, there probably would be some computer filing, but not as much as it's the physical filing.
Well, from experience, we do ours continuously on a basis, ramping up to our year end. So it's not as onerous as having to shut down the office to
I
do
think
some
we're
filing.
comparing apples and oranges, sorry.
But I'm sorry, but that it's just how you prioritize your tasks.
We are a small office with a lot of downloading happening, and I can understand where our administration is with this. Is there an opportunity maybe to check with one of our previous employees and ask her to come in for a day or two if we need to, and keep the office open, or is that even an option?
I would want to consult with Christina on that one, basically because the person I think you're referring to hasn't been in the office for the last year.
Mm-hmm.
Might not be familiar with how we've got things set up.
Mm-hmm. I
And
understand.
we have made some changes. Like I said, it's a practicality thing. To bring in one person, it just isn't enough. She'd be constantly coming back and forth, asking questions as to what goes where.
Okay. Is there any further discussion?
Do we want to wait on this until CAO has a chance to look into that possibility?
Of bringing someone in from outside.
I didn't hear him say that it was an option.
It isn't really an option because it takes pretty much the whole
Okay.
office to do this. Like I said, one person would be constantly coming back and forth, and it would probably take a lot longer.
Okay, all in favor of closing the office on the 14th of February, 2020? Carried.
Opposed?
Thank you for the discussions.
So,
Thank you, Martin.
I would move that we grant Councillor Defoe leave to be absent for the meetings of February 10th, 24th, and March 9th, if necessary.
I'd like to point out though that those are not consecutive meetings.
Pardon me?
Oh, I'm sorry.
They are.
Yes, they are consecutive weeks, not
Yes.
consecutive meetings. I thought it was 4 meetings.
It is, but as you see in there, if she misses a fourth consecutive, she may be disqualified from holding office. She would be disqualified, I shouldn't even have said that. She would be disqualified from holding office unless council gives leave to be absent.
Okay, I'll second that.
So we're just being proactive on that. Sorry, who made the original motion?
I did.
Seconded by Councillor Coomber.
Got that, yeah.
Discussion?
This one is a dilemma for me. Anyone who knows me, I'm a great supporter for education and training. However, we were fully aware of the time commitments and personal sacrifices that we would have to make to fulfill our
Point
commitments
of order, just a second.
to our position on council.
She's reading a statement. We're not doing statements anymore.
No, this is just
She can
my
read
thought
it,
process.
she's reading it out, but we're not gonna put it in the minutes.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Councillor Defoe has received concessions over the past year, which required rescheduling of our meetings in her favor. We require full council attendance to complete our year-end requirements, for example, our budgeting, our public meeting for the pool and strategic planning. So, unfortunately, I cannot vote in support of this recommendation.
Thank you.
Speak to that. I believe that Councillor Defoe has more than proved her value to this council, and that we know that this is the end of her schooling, and her time will be she will be more available than she has been in recent past, and I think that the value that she and the experience that she brings to council makes me want to support this motion.
Further discussion?
She is a valuable member at this table. She has contributed for many years and far more than just about all of us sitting here. More than some.
Further? All in favor? Carried.
Opposed?
So sorry, Lisa.
Just in case someone comes in. The door is not closed. Policy and bylaw review, myself and Councillor Peters. No
No
meeting,
meeting, no report.
no report. Public Works and Community Facilities, myself and Councillor Defoe.
Nothing from me.
Village Services and Liaison, Councillor Defoe and Councillor Coomber.
Rock, paper, scissors? I'm just kidding.
Can we do that? Sure. Okay. Hub Online Network Interview Series, council determined if they would participate in Hub Online Network's proposed monthly interview series. And they were talking about cycling through us, so it's not weekly or probably even monthly. So the recommendation is that council agree to participate in the online interview series. I'll move that.
Second.
Oh, go ahead.
Seconded by Councillor Defoe. Any discussion? Any discussion? Are you conducting the interviews, Garth?
Maybe not all of them, but I will be at the beginning.
Well, there.
It's my turn.
Okay, thank you
I'd like to
very
stand
much.
up for our media.
Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah, round nose. You don't get the bad questions.
Good one. Any further discussion?
I look forward to telling you all about what's happening in Cache Creek anytime you ask.
I look forward to hearing about it.
All in favor then? There you go,
Thank you very much.
Gareth.
And it begins.
Yeah. Protective Services, myself and Councillor Coomber.
Thought we went through this last year or the year before.
We did apply for this phase 2 funding before, it was turned down. When we asked about why it was turned down, they wanted more detail in the application. So,
It's a flood. It came from the creek.
yes, but this is mitigation planning.
We want
Risk
to keep the
assessment.
roads dry. Okay, recommendation, I will move that the Village of Cache Creek through True Consulting apply for funding under EMBC Disaster Mitigation Program for the Village Cache Creek Flood Mitigation Project.
Second.
Discussion?
Is there a cost to us?
Nope, this is 100% funding,
100%.
grant funding.
That's my other question.
And the amount we're applying for is approximately $176,000.
So how can we provide more detail than we did?
If I remember right, the previous application was around 8 to 10 pages. This one is 17.
And this is regarding Old Caribou.
With multiple background documents for reference.
And pictures, don't
And-
forget the pictures.
And pictures too, and maps, color maps.
Good. This is for Old Caribou? Or is it something different?
No, this is for the entire village.
Okay.
Council might recall a presentation of a digital map where they could show where the water would be given certain increases in the river volumes. This is carrying on that work.
Okay.
And if I may add, I believe they want to incorporate is it the LiDAR?
Yes.
The technology that there's a great deal of money has been spent on developing the LiDAR information package so it can be used throughout the area. And True would probably want to get their hands on that and then incorporate it in our.
Yeah, there's been a bit of give and take. We, through True, already had done some of that first phase, which they shared with Fraser Basin Council, who's trying to do this for the entire province, well, for every water basin in the province. And they hired a consulting firm to do that on that basis.
It's interesting technology.
It is.
Okay.
We gonna vote on it?
Anything further? You are the deputy mayor, aren't you? You're starting to act like one.
Pens.
All in favor? Carried.
You shouldn't have let me chair that last meeting.
I heard it went extremely well, so to your
She
credit.
speaks much better as mayor than she does as
Yes, that's actually very good, Wendy.
I'm not a mayor, but I do know how to conduct meetings.
Yeah. Intergovernmental relations, myself and Councillor Coomber.
No meetings, no report.
Just have a couple items if I may. Had a meeting with School District 73, the board, at the board level, the regional board level. And one of the things that got my attention really quickly is the capital school tax charge that will be implemented in Kamloops School District for at the permitting level. So any new home construction will be a surcharge we put on the building permit for a capital school tax. And that's to acquire sites for schools because they're growing so rapidly. And the average home would be about $1,000 on the permitting end of things. So I just wanted to bring that up, that if we're fortunate enough that we need to start acquiring sites for new schools in Cache Creek and Ashcroft, that we may be faced with that as well.
Sorry, I misunderstood. Was this something from the school district board or from the TNRD board?
School district board.
Okay, and they're asking for,
No, it was an
Business
information meeting. The regional board met with school district 73.
I see, okay.
And out of that meeting, we were brought up to date on what is gonna be happening in the 2020 budget. School district 73 budget. I believe their school is running over 100% capacity, obviously, and we're running at 50% capacity in our District 74.
It's better than it was a few years ago.
Yeah. And the second item was the stamp, cancellation stamp for the post office. There is no charge, we just have to supply them with the design, which is our graffiti day symbol, and they'll start using it once they get it, so,
No charge.
no charge.
This is the federal government.
Yes,
We're gonna get charged.
we're gonna get it somewhere. Yeah. Good, Mark.
Just wondering who we submit that to.
Our local
Oh,
postmaster.
okay.
Yeah, very simple, easy, and sorry?
They're not a postmaster.
Oh, what did I say? Did I
We
say
don't have a
postmaster?
postmaster, yeah, we have a post office manager.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I
because
didn't
when
know.
I
I thought it
asked
was the
Mary Ann
postmaster.
years ago to sign back in the old days, when you had to get somebody like that to sign your passport application, we don't have a postmaster.
So we're too small.
Wow.
We have a post office meeting.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
That's awesome. Not that we don't have a post office,
Yeah,
but
go
that's the
for
whole
it.
thing, yeah.
And information correspondence, Councillor Cooper.
Is that where this
You've
comes
got a new
in?
Oh,
business.
that would be the business, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Information correspondence? New business? Councillor Cooper.
The letter from the city of Vernon, which just came into our mailboxes yesterday, or, yeah, but I think the email just came in last night or this morning. So they are talking about the new proposed Emergency Planning Act. And I thought it fit right in line with our ideas on the resolutions that we wanted to make at Silga. They are talking about small communities not being able to bear the financial brunt of the new proposals for the act. And so it made me think that around this time of year, a lot of communities start passing around any resolutions that they plan to bring up at the upcoming conferences. So I was hoping that we might send out the resolution that Councillor Peters suggested at the last meeting regarding getting provincial money to pay for these new plans for the Emergency Act. Do we have the resolution ready yet?
He just he's writing.
I see that.
No, we have not. The reason being, the deadline for submitting resolutions is February 28th, I believe, near the end of February in any case. Just in case something else came up from council between now and then, rather than submit one or two at a time, I was going to wait till about a couple of weeks before the deadline and then submit them all at once.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why nothing has been done. And I've got the general feel for what council wants to see in that resolution, but it would come to council for final approval before we send it to Silga.
Would you also send it prior to the meeting?
Pardon me?
Prior to the meeting?
It would be included on the agenda.
Like UBCM, they give us a big book at Silga with all the resolutions in it, but some municipalities that feel strongly about their resolutions, send them out ahead of time, because not everybody goes through that book of resolutions. But generally, they see the letters that come in, especially if they're shorter than this one. So I would like to make a motion that we send Councillor Peters' or the village's resolution out to all of the municipalities within Silga prior to the convention in April.
Second, sorry. I was writing. We're all
That
writing.
was a tie, total tie.
Pretty close.
Your call,
Well,
as chair of the meeting.
yeah, eeny meeny.
It doesn't matter to me.
And I mean, nobody says emergency like Cache Creek. So I think that, yeah, with our letterhead and our resolution, then people are gonna sit up and notice and go, those people, they really know what they're talking about. We better get our butts in gear and yeah, support this.
I've only been to one, and I can't recall anybody reading out the resolutions at the Silga convention. Do you get a chance to bring it up at the Silga convention?
You can speak to it then.
And in fact, if this goes to Silga, you will have to speak to it, most likely.
I won't be there, so. It'll be up to you, being the deputy mayor. But yes, that was just my question, thanks.
Hey, wait a minute.
Hey, wait a minute.
I don't talk in front of crowds.
Yeah, it's a difficult thing to do, but you're very good at it. Okay. Do we have any further discussion? All in favor? Carried, thanks. Anything further under information correspondence?
New business.
Sorry, new business. Sorry.
I just have a copy of the picture that I sent for the email in regards to.
Sorry,
Just-
you have, is this a new topic for new business?
Yep.
Okay, and
It's
what
just
is?
to do with some
Topic?
signage for along, what is it, Quartz and Stage possibly, just to, as you can see on the sign, it's just a little addition to a sign that to school zone or something that we could use to slow the traffic down for our safety of our children along the bus route there.
So you're wanting to add more signs?
Well, I'd like
'Cause
to see if there's something that we could do to bring more awareness and to slow that traffic down along Quartz and Stage. Just that,
Yeah.
where our 4 stop signs
Because I
are.
think something like this would have to be proposed to the RCMP and the school board. It wouldn't be within our mandate to do.
Okay, so
I don't
think
think,
it
now I
was
could be wrong.
within ours.
Generally, no, if it's a local road, then it's our responsibility.
Mhm.
And I believe we already have some school signs up. What we could definitely look into this to find out the cost and bring it back to council.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't look like it would be a high cost item, but hey.
It's actually, the city of Kamloops has a printing place that they do it for the city of Kamloops. I
We
can't
generally get all of
remember,
our traffic signs from the same place that most
Yeah,
municipalities get them from, so.
Yeah, so you could get further information from them in Kamloops.
I'm sure that we could, just our normal supplier would have this.
Mhm.
So I just want to be clear. So you're proposing Quartz and Stage. So where I understand like between Quartz and the highway, are you proposing higher than that?
No,
So-
from the highway, like, so our L shape,
Okay.
where the school bus route comes through there,
And why do we need these?
to bring attention to the traffic that's going too quick through that area and for
We-
the safety of our children.
We have a lot of people that use that route to turn left to go to
I
Kamloops.
know, I know
So,
that,
Yeah.
but
Just to slow that traffic down.
yeah, but I mean, do we have, has somebody complained about,
There's been
The kids.
numerous complaints.
The
About
parent
the
advisory
traffic,
council had for
yeah.
years when I was on it.
CAO Dawson.
My understanding from Councillor Pittman's description is that you intend for these to go on existing signs, not put up new signs?
No, just on the existing sign.
Oh, okay, I
Right?
misunderstood.
There-
I
it's
thought you
it's on
wanted
the
new
bottom
signs.
part. You
Okay.
see the,
The school zone part.
yeah. I think to slow the traffic.
Okay,
Not
I
putting
understood
up
that
brand,
you
not
were
putting up brand new signage.
Oh, that's how I understood it.
No,
They
it's
wanted to
just
put up new
bringing,
signs.
yeah,
Okay.
to slow that traffic down.
So you just want to add the banner.
Yeah, the banner on the bottom.
An appropriate resolution would be to refer this to staff for a cost and bring it back to council.
Okay,
It's outside our normal.
that's my recommendation
But
then.
if we want to
Is that
bring
no?
awareness, that sign should be
I don't
much
know,
bigger
nobody's-
because drivers
You can
don't
look
really
Oh,
look at
so
the,
moved.
Second.
at the, how do you say, the pole of the signage.
well, and I don't believe that area is officially a school zone.
The sign's already there though. Right?
I believe so.
As a
don't think
school
so.
zone?
I think they're only on the highway, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, and they won't put a school zone on the highway because it's a highway.
We can refer it to administration to look into and stuff.
Yeah,
That's what we
sorry,
did.
it's just second guessing things here just a
Yeah.
little bit. This is very likely to be a pretty low cost item. If staff feels that this is reasonable, should we just proceed without having to bring it back to council?
Yes, please.
Okay. So,
Thank you.
we'll,
Rather than school zone, maybe just say slow down, school.
Something to bring it.
We have slow children playing. We have a lot of slow children in our
We have
town.
slow adults.
Harsh. So the resolution would be more to if cost is affordable within the existing budget, staff to proceed.
Yes. It doesn't have to be brought back to council. Anything further on the new business?
We have to vote on that one?
Uh,
We vote on.
Yeah, because it's a resolution.
No, sorry, I was just saying, I was about to say we need to call the question for that one.
Oh, we're actually gonna vote on it?
Mhm.
Okay. Question,
All in favor?
favor? Thank you. Any questions from the public? There is none. Questions from the press?
I do have a few questions.
Okay, thanks Garth for showing up tonight.
No problem, that was fun.
Yeah, move that we go into closed.
So you said that the fire department roof came in under budget. What
Yeah.
was the budget?
It was 38,000,
37.5?
37, yeah, something like that.
That's, I don't have that number right off the top of my head, but I believe that's what it was, 37.5. 37 and change anyway.
Yeah, it was just short under whatever the quote was,
Awesome.
yeah.
Even though you guys have already voted on this, on average, how many people on any given day come in, of the public come in through the doors?
It really depends on the time of year. Right now, there's quite a few because we have people coming in to pay for their business licenses and for their utilities.
Right.
There are other times of the year when
No one shows up.
we might have 1 or 2 people a week.
Yeah.
This time of year, we might have 3 or 4 or more a day.
For when we start our interviews, is anybody available at the end of February?
Certainly, I guess.
If you could all look at your calendars for that time period, and at one of the next meetings, we could sort that out.
Certainly.
That'd be awesome.
Thank you,
Give
Wendy.
us some dates.
Which district is school district 73?
Kamloops.
And I believe my last question is, so going after the Fabulous Festivals funding for Graffiti Days.
Mhm.
Is that something that the Graffiti Days committee would normally come to you in advance for, or is that something you just are going to do on your own for Graffiti Days?
Pretty much all of us are on the Graffiti Days committee, so.
Awesome.
Yeah, last year was the first year that we applied for it.
Yeah.
And again, it was, I don't know that we even knew about it prior to that. So we have always, within our budget, had for economic development support of Graffiti Days. And we have now proposed that we apply for this grant instead of the village itself funding it, the NDIT could fund it, so.
That's all I got.
Just have one last item, before we go into a closed session, is, we have our Graffiti Day, event coming up in June 12th, 13th, and 14th. I just wanna, you don't have to record this, Martin, it's just a statement from me, just for everybody's knowledge. With the power bestowed in me by the citizens of the municipality of Cache Creek, I hereby and forthwith challenge you, Martin Dawson, the exceedingly disputed proud owner of an automobile known as a Tesla, an electric-driven vehicle that openly boasts its superiority over any internal combustion engine. Challenge you to a duel, a race if you may. On June 13th, 2020, when the sun reaches high noon, I will defend the reputation of the internal combustion engine at the Thunder in the Valley Graffiti Days event. If you choose, you will be permitted one co-pilot to photograph my tail lights during the race. Luigi Pastrami. And one thing that I thought about this afternoon after I sent that to you in your remarks to the challenge is that with internal combustion engine, you can take the motor and bore it out and put bigger pistons in it, turbochargers, brace cams. You can do anything to an internal combustion engine. I thought that was unfair to you in the challenge. So what I did was I brought you something that you could use on that day to help you and level the playing field
Is that thing gonna zap
a
me?
little further to get you the little extra power you might need.
Where did you dig that out of?
There you go. And
Looks like a taser.
thank you for accepting the challenge, and I look forward to the 13th at high noon.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
CAO Dawson is only half owner of that car?
he's the full owner of that car.
No, he's not?
Yes, he
No,
is.
he's not? You have to ask both owners.
But that's why you said this, the second driver, passenger to
thank
take
you.
the photos.
Thank you.
That's
The
not,
taillights.
that's not consent.
But I knew you would go along with whatever Martin says.
I'm the
You're a good wife.
Is that so?
She's closer, I didn't hurt you.
Thank you again.
made sure
Thank you,
that-
Wendy, for accepting the challenge, and
Somebody has
for
to
accepting
open
the
the door.
challenge.
The backup camera can take video as you disappear behind me in the distance.
And
And sail off down the hill?
and I'm looking forward to it. Honestly, I really am. And if Elon Musk is listening to we hope that he
Maybe he'll come out and watch.
come out and watch. Yes. Thank you.
I move to go into closed.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Carried.